It is on. Oh, it's on. Mike, you need that. Good evening.
We got new things to.
I'll call this Audit and Finance Committee meeting to order. Majority Council, will you call the roll, please?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Willingham and Mr. Clay are excused this evening. Reedy?
Here.
Camisso?
Here.
Demalowitz? Ray Joyce?
Here.
Lakakis?
Yes.
Bergdorf?
Here.
And Grimm.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item on our agenda, approving the previous meeting minutes. I'll take a motion from Mr. Demalowitz. Does anyone want to second the motion? Second from Mr. Camisso. All those in favor? Say aye.
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 Thank you. Number 2, authorizing an agreement with In Our Own Voices Incorporated regarding an LGBTQ plus center. Mr. Sagan.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chairman. I'm here to present this appropriation for $300,000 for In Our Own Voices for their continued operations, enhancing their services. Part of this, as I see it, is the ability for the county to not just wait for people to get our service and come to us, but to go to them directly where services can be rendered. So I'm looking for approval of this appropriation, and I'll take any questions.
Mr. Demalowitz.
Would you add me as a sponsor?
Yeah, me too, if I'm not, I don't know.
Yeah, please add me as well. Mr. Bergdorf. Actually, sorry, before you go, anyone else want to be added as a sponsor? Mr. Bergdorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Cam, we sent, I know our staff sent over some questions asking just some basic information about how much the center or their organization is utilized. We were looking for how many meetings do they have in a month, what kind of attendance do they get at the meetings. This is a tremendous amount of money. And it seems like this proposal in 3 weeks has evolved in 3 different directions. The first thing was we were going to make a $300,000 capital contribution to their real estate. We were just going to make a contribution. It wasn't for the operations. It was to their real estate. And I guess there was some thought that that was fraught with some concerns. Then it evolved into we were giving them $300,000, which was actually rent, and in return for the rent, which said monthly rent, that one draft resolution that was on our desks that night. I should have brought it with me. But we were giving it $300,000 for use of the facility to give out brochures and have information. Now it's evolved to a third draft where we're basically just making a contribution to the organization. And I think there are a tremendous amount of organizations out there that would like a $300,000 contribution. And in return, we're going to be able to put brochures up in the place, and once a month we can have demonstrations or have people in from the health department, et cetera. There are lots of places that would love to have $300,000 and give us that sort of limited access. I have a concern that this is an organization that has a very, very limited membership. If somebody wanted to give $300,000 to the Damien Center, I would give it to them. I would say, wow, big organization, big service tranche, very well established, et cetera. And I would have absolutely no problem doing that. But I think we're going down the wrong path here of giving $300,000 to a not-for-profit that has a very limited membership that, do you have some data or anything that shows what kind of membership and what kind of meetings they have?
So I'm not aware of the request for data, but I'd be happy to get that for you. Obviously don't have that in front of me right now. But the services that they provide are quite robust, and they provide it throughout the county and the capital region. you listed off a couple things I'd like to address. As far as the scope of services and what that you referenced, I like to think that the additional scope of services that we provided actually was just getting a little bit more specific of what the $300,000 would get us. Granted, there was discussion over funding the capital project, which obviously I think we needed to shift money a little bit. But to clarify, this is not rent money. This is our ability of the county to bring services directly to residents instead of waiting for residents to come to us. Now, I can see how you could misconstrue that as rent, but it's really a type of office hours connecting and engaging directly with residents, getting our services that we provide every day to a place that provides similar services, but to a specific demographic. Now, you could say that it's a very specific demographic, so why fund them? But I think if you look on the flip side, there's a reason why an organization like this exists. It's because it is a population that is often, I think there's a level of discrimination that exists for this very particular subset of the population. So I think the importance of funding their operations is that much more important. I will get you more information on exactly how many people they serve, but at the end of the day, this kind of funding will actually allow them to serve even more people. So I think for all that consideration, I think this is a worthy investment.
Could you be somewhat specific as to what the service tranche is? Because I've looked at their mission statement, and there seems to be some confusion as to who it is. And they also say that one of the things they would do would be they use the organization for political activity, and to increase political awareness, et cetera. And I'm not sure that we ought to be supporting organizations that are going to be involved politically.
And I could defer to the legislator on this. I think there might be a difference between political speech and protecting civil rights. So I don't know if those two are the same thing, but I think the protection of civil rights and human rights might be something that they delve into, but Ms. Kakis. I'm sorry, she had her hand up. You're right. Yeah, that's your job.
Mr. Kakis.
Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Apologies.
Thank you, Chairman Cam. I think what Cameron was saying about it being an underserved population is the most important thing. It's not safe for some people to go to regular locations and receive services. It's not safe for trans people to go to a regular doctor's office and be sure that they're going to be safe and things like that. What's going on? First of all, this organization has been around for over 25 years, I'm pretty sure. They serve a lot of people all the time. It's open to the public. Anybody wants to come there. What they're doing right now is kind of, I think they're going to be the first, I think I read that they're going to be the first center in America that's going to have supportive housing. So what they're building in that wing that is 4 little units, so that when people find themselves homeless or jobless or whatever, that there's a place for them to land and get the services of the county, which they would be getting anyway, in a safe environment with people to help them, that, instead of them all having to dribble down to, Washington Avenue and go through that whole morass. So it is, in essence, the same people that we would be serving anyway. We're just having them be in a safer place where they feel comfortable, where they feel supported. And about the political stuff, it's separate usually. I mean, like I work for Planned Parenthood, and anytime we're doing any advocacy work, you have to use your clocking, you have to clock in a different number, you have to record your time very carefully about when you're doing advocacy work and when you're doing human services. So, I mean, I think because they are a savvy nonprofit organization and have been for some time, I think it's quite possible that it is separate and none of our money will be going to advocacy work, I feel pretty sure.
Well, our money is just going to them generally. I mean, you can make the same argument for the American Legion in Albany. Wouldn't it be nice if we gave the American Legion $300,000 for them to hold meetings for their constituents who are, you know, maybe unemployed veterans or mentally ill veterans, et cetera. I just worry about the precedent of creating pots of money for slivers, little tiny slivers, and maybe some are bigger than others, of not-for-profits in the county. And once again, I would really like to know how many people actually attend their programs there. If you told me that they had, 30 programs a month and their average attendance was 50, that would seem to be a pretty broad catchment basis.
So I believe Mr. Sagan's going to get that data for you, Mr. Bergdorf, and I think we're going in the same discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to move it.
Oh, Second.
Well,
I got
let's-
some questions.
Second, do I have a second on the motion?
Mr. Grimm has questions. He didn't acknowledge them.
Mr. Grimm,
All right, thank you. Yeah, I've become convinced that this organization has been around a long time and they meet a critical need. There's no doubt about it. The 300,000 that's not typical. But I do think we moved away from some mistakes. One was the rent idea, because, that's operating expenses and then the money gone. You can't just pay the rent. But what you're describing, Cam, I think these are necessary needs to meet. As long as there's any political activity that's financed by tax dollars. I would just make sure that it's open to everyone. They talk a lot about people of color. I just want to make sure anyone who needs any of these services, will get those services. I mean, I want to say that publicly.
Now, I imagine someone who's Caucasian who went to them in need of services, I don't think that they would be turned away.
thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Sagan, there is a motion by Mr. Namalowitz.
I second it.
Second by Mr. Kakis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I believe it's unanimous. Any opposed?
I will vote to put it out to the floor. I'll make my decision once I get some information from Mr. Sagan.
Thank you, Mr. Bergdorf. Item number 3 is, we'll take a motion to table item number 3. Mr. Misso, second by Mr. Namalowitz. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Rob.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Sagan.
Thanks, Ken.
Number 4, authorizing the conveyance of real property located at Center Street and Livingstone Avenue in the city of Albany.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Pat Curran from the County Executive's Office. If I haven't met you, I apologize. So this is a request in 2 parts. The first being to declare the county-owned property located adjacent to Center Street and Livingston Avenue as no longer necessary for public use. That's pursuant to Local Law 2 of 1998. And the second being authorizing the transfer of that property to the New York State Department of Transportation. The parcel is approximately 0.02 acres, so it is a very small piece of land that has been sitting there vacant for several years. It will be utilized by the New York State Department of Transportation for the reconstruction of the Livingston Avenue Railroad Bridge, and it will be sold for $8,400.
Motion moved.
Motion by Mr. Namalowitz, second Mr. Lakakis. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gardner. Number 5, authorizing the purchase of real property known as the Gateway Sports Complex in the city of Cohoes.
Heard about this already today.
Cohoes.
We've seen pictures.
Mr. Rogers.
Worth the trip from anywhere.
Sure, that's a big deal, there's kids going over there.
Thank you, Mr. Reedy. Good evening, everybody. So this is an opportunity that came onto our radar last year. The operators of the Gateway Sports Complex, previously the Coes Community Center, informed us that they were going to be putting the property on the market. We met with the sellers and began to evaluate the opportunities that we thought that property could provide for the county, and particularly for the residents who live in the north and northeastern portion of the county. It's mostly outlined in this RLA, but the facility includes aquatic facilities, which is not something that the county currently operates, gym, fitness equipment, meeting space, as well as other facilities. And we view as a really cost-effective way to expand the offerings of our recreation department. I would say that we also think that the county does not have much of a physical presence in that area of the county, and it could also be somewhat of an outpost for other county departments, think veterans, aging, et cetera, to spend some time and have, office hours, was the term we used at the last item, things like that where they can really get out into the community. So, we began to further evaluate the opportunity and conducted an appraisal, had our engineers evaluate the property. I'll add that in addition to their evaluation, the purchase will be subject to inspections of roof, HVAC, electrical, pool, et cetera, before any closing. But again, based on everything the facility had to offer for the county and the services that we look to provide, began negotiating with the seller and landed on the price that's outlined in the presentation here. So happy to answer any questions. I will say it's something that we are very excited about, the opportunities that it presents for the county, and would like to answer any questions.
Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Chairman Reedy. This is great news for Cohoes, no doubt about it. I just see my two smiling colleagues over there. I do want to question some of the numbers, Luke. The previous purchase price was in 2020 for $460,000, okay? And then there was an evaluation done by GAR Associates, and they valued it in 2023 at $820,000. But the purchase price is 1.2. So how did we get to a 1.2 purchase price, given those numbers?
Yeah, now I can speak to that in a few different ways. I think first of all, the owners who we are offering to purchase the building made a significant investment into the facility. I actually had the chance to see the facility in its previous state, and so I even anecdotally can tell you that the condition of the facility and the investment they made is real and certainly dramatically influenced the value of the property.
Can I just ask you, didn't they do the renovations prior to the valuation, or no?
I'm talking about from the purchase, you first referenced the original purchase
Yeah.
price. So I'm saying in reference to that.
So they put in renovations, and the renovations led up to the $820,000
So
value.
the property appraised at $820. So in terms of an appraisal, there's a few components to look at there. First of all, an appraisal of this type is largely based on comps. The comps that were utilized in this instance, appraisals are art and science. There's no question about that if you've worked in that world. None of the comps that were utilized had the aquatic facility that this facility has, and had other significant differences. So it does present a sort of a starting point, but I think we all know that appraised price and sale price and market price are different things. This was a negotiation. We feel comfortable with the value and the purchase price that we are offering. We also, had sort of cursory conversations about what it would take to build such a facility. And you're talking easily $8, $10, $12 million. So in terms of value of investment and what we are getting for this price, we feel very comfortable with where we landed at the 1.2 million.
ARPA, you're the king of ARPA, Luke. You've done an amazing job. There was no ARPA money that could have been used for this purpose at all?
It's possible. I mean, I think there are a lot of competing uses for ARPA. It's generally a process that's going pretty well, and we've kind of identified a plan for how those funds are going to be used. So I'd say it's really just a timing issue.
And we thought about, we're going to have to maintain the facility if we purchase it. That's going to cost money, maintaining it and doing all the programs. Have we thought about what the budgetary items will be for that?
Yeah, we're starting to put that together now. I think obviously we have some inherent benefits being the county in that we're not starting from scratch in terms of having maintenance, equipment, facilities, employees, et cetera, so there's some efficiencies there. Obviously, we're gonna be working, we know that the Recreation Department will have a significant presence there. We believe there will likely be some revenue-generating opportunities as well that could offset some of those costs. We have some folks that have frankly reached out already who are interested in the pool, et cetera, and those would be private revenue-generating opportunities in addition to, obviously, services that the county would provide, which would likely not have a cost associated with them. So it's something that we're developing now. Obviously, there's a little bit of a chicken and an egg with having the property, in order to have confidence that we should go forward with developing that full plan. But we have a lot of ideas in the works. Justin can speak to it, but we've certainly expanded our aquatic programming and gives us an opportunity to consolidate some of those programs and have potential cost savings there. So obviously there will be some costs associated with maintaining the building, but I think we're in a good position to manage that.
Yeah, so I'm going to support it because it's just wonderful news for Cohoes. But I'm not sure we got the best price on there. But that's a discussion for another day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bergdorf.
I had originally many of the same concerns that Mark had, and last week I talked to Bill Ricard and asked him to do some digging for me to get me to comfortable with the difference between $850,000 and the $1.2 million. And when we got through and we were looking at the backgrounds of the appraisals and the comparables, it is very clear to me that an indoor aquatic facility that can be used in February for relatively, or I don't know what the cost would be, but one of the concerns of the folks in Cohoes is that this is not a private health club and that this has to be affordable for people in the community. And it is a tremendous community benefit that is not just limited to the city of Cohoes. It's available to the people in Waterville or Green Island, or, I would think their catchment basements would be a lot of the northern end of the town of Colony. There are people who may not have the ability to spend $800 a year for a membership at the Sakati Center, who could certainly use this facility and as a county resident and a county benefit. So I came to the conclusion that those sorts of benefits also provide a tremendous asset equity, if you will, to the facility. And it would probably, how many square feet is it? 35,000. You couldn't build an indoor pool, gym facility, etc. You couldn't come anywhere near building this for, less than $7, $8, $9, $10 million. So I came to the conclusion that it's a good deal, and I'm going to support it.
I just want to, if you hadn't made it, I was going to make the same point, that obviously we view this as a tremendous opportunity for Cohoes, but we also view it, broader than that geographically, and I think we really intend to have it be utilized as wide of a geographic swath of the county as possible.
Ms. Gagos.
I won't call on her like
Cam did. There are no further questions. I'd like to move it. Let's go swimming.
For the motion, second, Mr. Dubalowitz, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, gentlemen. Number 6, reauthorizing the acceptance of hazard mitigation grant funding for the Department of Public Works.
What are we saying about?
Anyone taking on this? Ms. Ramondo here.
I'll take this one.
Okay. Mr. Rogers.
Be short and sweet, but the county is in the midst of updating our hazard mitigation plan. That's every 5 years requirement that all counties are required to complete, and are about, I believe, 30% complete through the project. Because of the way sort of encumbrances are now being handled, I believe we have to reappropriate the funds in order to complete the project later this year.
Any questions or discussion?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Julie.
I'll entertain a motion. Ms. Lukakis, second. Mr. Grimm, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Number 7, request to authorize the correction of the 2023-2024 school tax bill
I'm coming to go
and the
swimming.
2024 property tax bill of 14 Corporate Circle, City of Albany. Mr. McGuire.
Good evening, everybody. How's it going tonight? Item number 7, the City of Albany has requested the correction to the 2023-2024 school tax bill and the 2024 city tax bill for 14 Corporate Circle. The owners of the property, the North Atlantic States Carpenters Training Facility, applied for a nonprofit tax exemption prior to the statutory deadline. The property meets all eligibility requirements. However, the exemption was not applied to the assessment roll and the subsequent tax rolls. The property should be wholly exempt from taxation. We're seeking your authorization to approve the correction of the tax bill as an unlawful entry error has occurred.
Motion to move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 8, request to authorize the correction of 2024 property tax bills for properties owned by the Albany County Land Bank.
The Albany County Land Bank has submitted applications seeking to correct 16 tax bills. They are 2024 City of Albany tax bills, and there's a few within the town of Colony as well. The Land Bank was established under Article 16 of the New York State Not-for-Profit Corporations Law. All properties owned by the Land Bank are exempt upon acquisition. The exemptions weren't applied to the properties on the assessment rolls. So this is a, let's see here, unlawful entry error, and we're seeking correction of the tax bills.
Motion.
Motion second, Mr. Demalowitz. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. McGuire.
Thank you.
Number 9, amending resolution number 283 for 2023 regarding New York State Homes and Community Renewal Community Development Block Grant CARES Act funding. Luke.
Going to cover this one. All right, good evening again. The next 2 items are sort of procedural items to close out grant funding, HCR CDBG funding that partially supported land bank projects in the South End, as well as mental health projects throughout the county. The land bank portion is complete. The mental health is, I think it's a 91% expended. So in order to complete the mental health side, we need to extend the state basically sent us the documentation to extend the grant through June. And because it's CDBG funding, you also have to have I'm jumping ahead a little bit to the next item, but you also have to have a closeout public hearing through the legislature. So I believe the first item is the extension. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Motion move.
Motion, Mr. Demalowitz. Second, Ms. Lukakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 10, public hearing on the closeout of the Community Development Block Grant CARES Act program.
Motion move.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Luke.
Public hearing.
Number 11, authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 10 Lexington Avenue, tax map number 65.64-6-69 in the city of Albany. Mr. Riley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple pages of notes here.
Yes, sir.
Evening, Mr. Look at that stack already.
All right, this is a pretty
Gotta get
vanilla
it
property
bad,
tax, property tax foreclosure transfer. It's 10 Lexington Avenue. This is the adjacent property owner who is also the community police officer for the neighborhood. He's been the officer for 13 years. Sorry, but the way the disposition plan is written, abutting owners get secondary after a reacquisition by a previous owner. He's shown us plans where he's renovated numerous houses in the past. I think he's done about 10 two-family houses, most of which have come through the land bank, and he's offered $1,500 cash.
Motion, Mr. Demalowitz. Second, Ms. Lukakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will take a motion to group items 12 through 36.
Motion.
Motion, second, Ms. Lukakis. All those in favor? Aye. Mr. Riley?
So, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just as a bit of an explanation of what we're doing here. Last year, and we started working towards this where we said we could authorize capital projects where we could pay out of the general fund in advance of bonding. This cleans it up a little based on advice or work that I've done with the comptroller as well as advice by bond counsel. Basically, the way the fund balance policy is written, if the fund balance hits a certain threshold, we're to work with the legislature on different uses to spend that down. One of the best uses that I'd basically come up with and had started socializing was to potentially pay for some of our capital projects with cash rather than bond them out over 15 years and pay interest over 15 years, especially at the current interest rates. So the game plan at this point would be to reauthorize all of these, allowing either general fund proceeds or bonded proceeds, which Joe Scott is perfectly fine with. Once the comptroller reports to the legislature what the new fund balance numbers are going to be and how much we've either increased or decreased, that will then, we can compare that to the percentages that are in the policy, and we kind of work back from there and say, okay, we're $20 million over the target or whatever it is. Maybe we'll put 15 of that towards capital, but we won't know those numbers until she closes the books in a couple of months.
Question.
Yep.
All these bonds are going out as one, right?
These are not necessarily going out as bonds. This is to authorize them where we can either pay general fund or bond. We will make that determination, and then if we go out to the market, obviously there'll be communication as part of this whole process of how much of it we're going to go out and bond.
Gotcha, okay.
Mr. Burdor.
Question, Dave.
Yep.
This is kind of like a hybrid way to think of things, either cash or bond. One of them particularly stuck in my mind was $12 million for recreational purposes.
Yep.
And they gave examples of the rail trail and Lawson Lake and the old Ann Lee site facility. And there was one other in there. There were four items.
Pool? No, I don't remember.
Excuse me?
I said the new pool, but I don't remember.
No, well, maybe it wasn't.
That wasn't in there.
That was
because
actually.
The capital plan was approved before that was even on the radar.
Yeah. So my question is is that 12 million the original bonding capacity for, I mean, some of these projects, I don't even know what they are. I don't know what's gonna go on at the Ann Lee Hospital, or the old Ann Lee home site.
Well, can I just interrupt? This is for 12 through 36?
Yes.
Because this item is 42, okay? According to, right, so we're not.
Oh, it's not within that.
It's not in the-
So 12 through 36 are the exact same dollar amounts as you guys had authorized last year, just giving
okay.
that additional flexibility. The ones after 37 on are still amounts that you, as a body, approved in the capital plan last year. But we did not get financing or bonding authorization for the full amount last year. This is to kind of bump it up to that if we think we're going to need.
The latter set of.
Yes.
Okay, I am now less confused.
Motion
Thank you.
moved.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Motion second. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion to group items number 37 through 46.
Motion. Second.
All in
Mr.
favor?
Chairman,
Aye.
I'd like to hold out on one of them if I can. Item 42.
42. I gotta look closely at that.
Well, the motion carried to group these, but we'll open it up for discussion. Mr. Riley, I'd like to speak on items 37 through 46.
As I said, I've already kind of explained, these were all authorized in the capital plan last year. That was passed by a unanimous vote. This is just to go for the full amount that was previously authorized in that and to give that flexibility of either direction. I don't know off the top of my head how much of that was approved last year because this is one of the ones that were increasing the full amount.
42.
You just want
That's
to
the
talk
12
about
million.
42.
You're abstaining on that?
No, I just got
I want to
questions.
talk about it. I want to take it out of the consent
Oh, I
block.
see.
Mr. Grimm, go ahead while.
Yeah, item 42. Yeah, once again, as Commissioner Riley has reminded us, just because it was approved in the capital plan doesn't mean we're obligated to approve the spending. But this was the 12 million that Paul was talking about for improvements. There isn't much backup. There is, the capital plan line is listed here, and that's just, it says it refers to the rail trail, Lawson Lake, and Ann Lee Pond. But that's not a lot of specificity for 12 million. One of the questions I have, Dave, is it was contemplated to have some overnight stuff at Lawson. Where is that now, and is that included in the 12 million?
That is one of the projects that is being contemplated in that 12 million. I know there was a site plan, some kind of engineering study done up there. I have not seen it. That's more of a George Penn operations kind of thing. I can get that to you guys if you haven't seen the final on that. I don't know where that stood. You had something? Right.
I've got a follow-up, yeah.
Well, let's go to Mr. Burdor first, and we'll come back to Mr. Grimm.
I was actually following up on that, because I think in the Public Works Committee, when we allocated the money for the engineering study for Lawson Lake, there were a whole lot of concerns raised in the Public Works Committee about projects. There were certain projects on the top part of Lawson Lake, and there were certain projects that were going to be at the bottom or the lower half of the facility. And we were told at that time that no final decisions had been made, and that what we were getting was a draft engineering feasibility plan. And we asked questions about whether or not there would be seeker, whether you could do segmented seeker, whether you could do the top end of Lawson Lake without knowing what the environmental impact was on the lower part of Lawson Lake. And we were told that none of that, we hadn't made any decisions yet, and the legislature had not made any commitments. Now, that's where I left Lawson Lake. Was somebody had a dream. We were spending money to hire an engineering study, and now it looks like it could be eligible for $12 million worth of bonding without any of us knowing.
No, that's an impossibility. You would have to authorize any contracts that are done under that as well.
And the 12 billion also is not just for Lawson Lake, that's for recreational facilities in general. So that includes the rail trail, Anley Pond Preserve, Lawson Lake.
Yeah, but once again, by creating this mechanism, we're segmenting funds for those purposes without knowing how much would go to Lawson Lake and what are we getting? Or what's happening at the Ann Lee site and what are we getting? And I don't understand why I'm having a hard time without knowing where this money could potentially go and what the extent of the project is. Most of which I would assume I would be supportive, but as a body, I think we're sort of a little ahead of ourselves.
So the master plan did come before the legislature. This was last year, I don't really remember when. It was conducted by Passero, I never know how to pronounce it. And it laid out sort of a layout of what we're expecting to do between upper camp, lower camp, trails. Now, I believe you have that, but I could send it to you just to make sure, because you had to approve that contract for the analysis to be done.
We did the analysis, but if you go, if I
So
say, if you
that
go
gave
back.
you an idea of sort of what kinds of things
Yeah.
we're looking at spending. So part
But
of
if you
it,
go, but if you go back and check the tape, you said that, this would, what our real plans are would come back to you before we went forward. And it sounds like maybe, I don't know, if.
But we haven't authorized any other plans since then.
yeah, any contracts for, any major spending would have to come here.
So it's just a placeholder, sorry.
Yeah, so that, we want to make sure that we have the ability to spend the money.
You might have to jump back in. As Mr. Grimm stated before.
Let's just hold on one second. Ms. Lakagas, do you have a?
I just wanted to clarify, this is sort of a placeholder, and as we go to spend $12 million, it'll come before us, as it always does, like $2 million for Anley Pond, $2 million for the pool, $2 million for whoever else, and maybe, because we'll have more recreational facilities by that time. So I'm not so.
I'll entertain a motion.
No, I've got some questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Grimm?
Yeah, I think this legislature has to have a serious discussion about whether we want to have overnight at Lawson Lake. That's a significant challenge. 24-hour policing, security, it's a big issue that we should be able to discuss. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, is there's 12 million is there ready to be spent, but individual items would have to come back to us.
Correct.
But there needs to be a discussion among the legislators about whether or not we should be going overnight at Lawson Lake. That's a substantial change that has significant implications down the road.
Absolutely, and once those plans are finalized, we can come back and have that discussion.
Yeah, I think you
but
paid for
we're-
the study, and that's what Paul was talking, I've seen the study, but that doesn't mean anything. And as you were saying, Dave, you're saying something about the capital plan.
Well, I was just gonna reiterate the point that you brought up because you're reiterating how I brought it up when we passed the capital plan.
Yeah.
Passing the capital plan is just the first step of a multi-part, long-term construction plan. It's a 5-year construction plan. The next step of that is the financing authorizations, which we're now taking a second swing at, what we had already authorized last year. But the final step still comes in front of the legislature, where any contracts north of $100,000 are going to come in front of the legislature.
Gary?
I disagree with Mr. Grimm on the overnight. I think that this, especially for the inner cities, children of the city of Albany, I being one in 1965, going to Camp Thatcher, that was run by the Albany Boys Club. And everybody in our street went for 2 weeks up in Thompson's Lake. So I think this is a wonderful thing that the county executive is doing. I think it's gonna help a lot of inner city kids that can't afford to go away to camp and get them out of the city. So I think it's great, and I look forward to supporting it.
Thank you.
Take a motion.
Motion.
Motion, second. Mr. Kakis, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Is that everything?
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Joel, second. I have a second on the motion. All second, all those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Puts us in the
Thank you, everyone.